Hey, listeners, from the Demystified Zone crew, thank you for an amazing 2023. In the spirit of North Korea, we'd love to invade your personal lives even more by asking you to ask your loved ones, coworkers, friends, babysitters to like, download, and subscribe the Demystified Zone podcast. Marshall will be proud of you. Hey, what's up, Dan?
Hey.
We got another movie today.
Yeah, man.
Now that we're in 2024, 2023 is behind us. We did one movie review, North Korean movie review, Pulgasari, which was incredible, minus Jay. At least all of us thought it was incredible, except for Jay.
Yeah.
But that's okay. That's why we have different reviewers here.
Yeah, we don't force opinions on anyone
Yes.
in this podcast.
Unless we become truly like the North Koreans that we follow and we dictate what your review has to say. But as I've mentioned before, we're into film. We're into different types of film. Roughly, yeah. We have a common ground in 90s action film.
Yeah,
at least Dan
so.
and I. Jay, we don't know what he likes over there. He likes watching like CCTV or something like that.
We've talked about this before. I like modern movies.
Okay,
yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, whatever, Jay. But we have a fun movie to talk about today. And yes, we will let Jay talk. I'm sorry, I'm oppressing him. This movie today is called Under the Sun.
Yeah.
And we're jumping from kaiju, crazy action 80s or 70s, was that? 70s? 80s.
Mm-hmm.
To this Russian documentary, actually, from 2016 by director Vitaly Mansky. And this is really interesting. I'm going to read the log line here. Over the course of 1 year, a Russian filmmaker follows a Pyongyang family whose daughter was chosen to take part in one of the Korean, I think this is Sparta Kids. I think this is a Spartakiads. I don't know what that means, but essentially she is being chosen to be part of the Children's Union, which is the, I would say, organization that feeds into governmental positions, higher governmental positions in the North Korean democracy or government, whatever you want to call it. So this is a really interesting film in that this filmmaker was allowed, obviously this is well before COVID, to stay for a full year, document this thing. We're going to do a review about this. So I just want to give people a heads up. We'll put the link. It's free right now on Tubi. You have to watch some ads. But
very light ads.
Light ads.
Yeah.
What were your ads? I'm curious because they definitely targeted me. You know, I got bingo. I got this like Cash App bingo thing that kept popping up. I'm like, why am I getting this one?
I remember the commercial.
Do you remember what your ads were? Jay, did you watch this one?
No. Yeah, I did watch it. I don't remember the ads, though.
Okay. Anywho, there's ads, but it's very rare. Spoiler alerts will come later. Okay,
Yeah.
So we'll give you fair warning. So at some point you can pause us, and hopefully come back and listen to our full review when we get the spoilers. But right now, spoiler free.
I mean, honestly, is there anything to spoil in this movie?
Yeah, I think there is.
Okay.
I think there is.
All right.
I have some spoilers for sure.
Okay.
So we're gonna start off with some initial thoughts. No spoilers here, guys. Don't talk about any details. Let's do initial thoughts. So this is not your. What were you expecting? I know I sent this to both of you with no like pretense or even explanation. I just said, watch this. I want to know, what were you guys expecting? It's a documentary, obviously. Tell me about it.
I just had a question, I guess, going into it, which is how much manicuring will the North Korean government do?
Right.
And yeah, they play a very significant role in the movie.
Right off the bat. This is not a spoiler. You'll see in the first 30 seconds. There's essentially a disclaimer that says we were handed a script from the North Korean government about this documentary.
Yep.
And that starts things that I think that just made it really interesting from the get-go. Doing documentaries, so here I'm going to speak a little bit from I'm a filmmaker, and I really don't like doing documentaries. I like watching them. Making them is really difficult. Yeah. And the reason why it's so difficult, especially for like a narrative storyteller, is you don't know what story you have until you go through everything. And oftentimes the story you think you're going to get is not the one you're going to get. So essentially a documentarian goes and spends all this time, and that's the crazy thing. This was a year this guy filmed for. Gets all this footage, and usually you go into a documentary with some kind of thesis or an idea of like, okay, this is probably going to be the story. These are probably going to be the characters. And I know what you're saying. Like, it's supposed to be a documentary. It's supposed to be factual. It is, but we still need to tell a story from this, right?
Yeah.
All the great documentaries you've seen usually highlight on certain people or what's happening. And the fun part is like, you can't predict, like in live sports, like what the outcome is going to be or where this is going to go. But that's what makes documentary making like maddening. Is like you spend all this time and it could not be that person. Someone else could come out of the woodwork, and some people find that actually, invigorating.
Right.
And that's why
The
they love
surprises.
doing documentaries, because
Right.
they find these like hidden stories within the story.
Right.
For me, I'm lazy. I don't like doing that. But what makes this so interesting is that beginning part. It's scripted. And that's what the one no for documentaries is. Like, you don't script a documentary.
Right.
That's not a documentary
That
anymore.
Goes against every principle of every documentarian.
Yes.
Most.
Yes. But I do think this movie still is successful. That's why I think, and I'll get this to say it, there's a lot of layers to this film.
It is. It is a movie full of the different layers of the onion.
What was like for you? What were you expecting to see? Did you go in thinking you could be surprised, or were you kind of, because you spent so much time in North Korea and talking about North Korea, doing North Korean things? Do you feel like were you like open to being surprised, or were you like, I don't think I'm gonna learn anything new here?
I think the trailer. So we talked about it, and then I looked at the trailer. I said, "Okay, cool, let's do it." So, just judging from the trailer, I really wanted to see like footage, B-roll from North Korea, just like people walking down the street.
Yes.
Because you never see that.
Yes.
You never ever see that anywhere in any documentary. So, just the fact that he got like everyday normal shots,
Yeah.
I thought it was so interesting.
That was unique.
Yeah.
Like, very rarely is the B-roll more compelling than the A-roll.
Well, the B-roll was sort of the A-roll in this movie.
It was.
It's
It really
It's
was.
just like it. Yeah. So there was that. I was interested in that, and then I was interested to see how North Korea would play it, and they definitely played it.
Well, they definitely took a choice. They made a choice. They definitely made a choice.
Editorial choice. Yes.
Jay, do I dare even ask over there? How much of the movie were you awake for?
I saw the whole thing.
Were you awake for the whole? Were you conscious?
I was conscious. I was paying attention to the whole thing.
Okay. Initial thoughts.
One thing I noticed was like, there is never a shot where North Korea is like sunny. Is it that? Did you guys catch that too? Like, it's always muggy there.
gloomy.
Yeah, it's always gloomy, foggy,
Huh.
hazy,
Interesting.
cloudy.
You know what?
I didn't even
I
catch
do. I'll have to go back. I don't remember feeling that, but in general, that was an overarching feeling throughout the film.
The feel of
Yeah.
the film
Gloom,
was
doom and
that.
gloom, yeah.
Yeah.
And maybe that was a choice though by the filmmaker, because
I mean, I went into this with zero knowledge of it. I didn't see the trailer.
Yeah.
You guys just told me to watch it, and I did, and it's very strange. That's the best way to put it, in my opinion.
But it's an interesting observation about the gloom. I mean, I definitely noticed, and we'll get into this, like no electricity, like the lights weren't on. And actually, as a filmmaker, I kept thinking about that. I'm like, they must have had one heck of a time lighting this thing, because
The scenes
There was
of,
no
like,
electricity.
The house,
Yes.
like they're in their apartment.
Yes.
The veteran is talking in the auditorium.
Yeah.
It's just hazy window lighting,
yes,
right?
yes,
That's all I saw.
There wasn't.
Yeah.
I didn't see light bulbs on
Yeah.
for most of the shots, unless it
Yeah.
was dark out and they were inside.
Even like in the factory, right?
But there were
Like
very
the-
few.
Factory. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
that's right.
Yeah,
There's no lighting.
yeah. Well,
Interesting.
Jay, you're going to spoil it, Cherry.
Okay, I'm
Cherry,
sorry.
Stop spoiling.
I'm
things.
sorry.
There is a factory. There is a whatever else he mentioned. But it's fine. It's not spoiling anything. So let me give a little background. There's not too much to be said about this. Again, this is a Russian filmmaker.
And that is also interesting that he's Russian.
Yeah, and I think that's actually very it's interesting. It's cool.
It's significant that
Yes.
he's Russian.
In that North Korea obviously has ties with Russia, so they're going to be more open to allowing a Russian documentarian to come in.
Yes.
But I don't think this Russian documentarian, Vitaly Mansky, I can't really speak too much about him, but he definitely made choices of his own that I thought were more true to the nature of North Korea. We got like an inside look into North Korea, and I really appreciated that. And he also, if you look at the credits, this was shot with like a Czech crew, Czechoslovakian. I can't even speak right now. A Czech crew
in February.
Well,
I'm just kidding.
Throughout the year,
yeah,
they probably came in and out. And again, this is probably 2015, 2014 when they're filming. But man, so many things that like I thought were so interesting just for the premise of it.
Yeah, I really liked that there was very little editorializing it. They just showed the footage, right?
Yeah.
And they kind of let that speak for itself. A little bit they would write on the screen, right? Like
no narration.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Zero narration.
No narration.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that was really interesting because honestly, there wasn't much going on in the quote unquote plot of the movie, right? It's just this girl who goes and is in the show, right, at the end of the movie, and there's no mystery behind it. She's going to do it. They're going to make her do it despite her crying.
All right, so now we're entering spoiler territory. So this is, you guys are both chopping at the bit, getting ahead of me here. So let's just do it. All right, spoiler alert, everyone. Here it is. We're going to talk about the movie now and go through, at the end, we're going to each do our own review of it, but we're going to go deep in the movie. So spoiler alert. I'm going to talk real quick about the plot, or not plot, but premise.
Yeah.
So what Dan was saying is accurate. What Jay's saying, like, this is not the documentary when you think of documentaries. Right. There's no teaching here. There's no like, and I know documentaries aren't supposed to be narrative, but they are in some sense, right? They're trying to tell us something of a story or educate you about something, an issue. This is, I almost felt like a National Geographic, old school National Geographic, where it's just like footage
of the animals.
Yes, and no lessons about the animals though. Yeah. It's just like footage, beautiful footage.
Yeah,
and that's how this feels for.
Very much so.
And then it gets going once you get into. So the premise really is the focus of this young girl. Her name is Zinmi, and she's really cute. She's probably like maybe
adorable.
7 or 8, and the documentary is about her kind of coming of age and coming into the Children's Union, which is essentially the children's
Communist Party.
Yeah, exactly. Like being indoctrinated into the North Korean Communist Party. So we follow them. But the whole twist is this is completely scripted.
Yeah.
Completely scripted. Like at first, do you remember the first time
kimchi?
when... Yes, the kimchi. What an incredible scene. So it's a little slow until he hits this scene.
Yeah.
Tell us about it.
So
again, spoiler alert.
So they're showing this family. It's one daughter with her 2 parents. Like the dad saying, "Oh, you should eat a lot of kimchi. Kimchi is good for you." Da da da. And she says, "Yeah, I like kimchi too because it has a lot of antioxidants and da da da."
And saves you from cancer.
Saves you from cancer. And they're all like, "Ha ha 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 ha! You knew that? Ha 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 ha!" And then, right at that point, a North Korean director comes in and says, "Okay, you should say it this way. You should do it that way." And then you realize, oh, this is all staged.
Yes.
So this documentary is like a show within a show, right?
Yes.
And then he goes even as far to say, like, oh, make it sound more natural because it's a documentary. Make it look more natural.
Yes. Oh my God. That was such a great reveal. I love that part where, so yeah, just like Dan described, like it's the first time, because you get this disclaimer in the very beginning that just says, hey, North Korea scripted this entire thing. And for me, I'm like, whoa.
Yeah. What does that
like,
mean?
Everything?
Yeah.
But then what's weird is like you get this BTS, which is behind the scenes footage of them scripting the scenes and like curating the scenes. And this first they're having this kimchi lunch. And there's this like, the first time it's delivered, you're kind of like, oh yeah, that seems fake. Like that dad is like totally playing off of something they told him to say. But literally, let's let Jay play it. We're just getting some audio, and if you're watching the video of us here, you will see some video here. Go ahead, Jay.
I will eat a lot.
Zinmi. Kimchi is our traditional food.
음식이야.
Yes.
사람이
If you eat 100 grams of kimchi
김치국물
and drink 70 milliliters of kimchi brine per day,
분할 하루에 사람에게 필요한
you'll get all the essential
절반을
vitamins.
보충한 거랑 같아.
Yes. And I know something else.
뭐라네.
Oh, what do you know?
That it's good because it prevents aging and cancer.
Look at that laugh.
책만 해보더니
You read a lot,
그런 걸
Zinni.
하는구나, 진미야.
That's why you know so many things.
진미야.
Cut. Did you just hear that? That was a card cut, and they're doing it again with them in different positions now. The mom is on the left side of the table.
Yep.
Zinmi's on the right side, maybe
And
for
you could
the,
see
the
the
lighting.
director in the corner.
김치는 우리나라의 고유한 민족 음식이야.
Another cut, position change.
They're not actually eating any of the
많이
food.
먹어요.
They're not. Well, he kind of is.
By the way, the food looks
Yeah.
delicious.
Yeah, they have a master shot of the food, which is like
많이 먹어야 돼.
incredible. Like no one eats like that in North Korea, but clearly they put that in there.
이? 여기나 이 김치는
Okay, so this goes on, and oh my god, it was so great because then now from here, like the director comes in, starts giving directorial notes to Zinmi, to the family about like how there need to be more laughing at her joke, and like it's so interesting. And this
It's
is
so
all like
interesting.
B-roll. These are all cuts, like
Yeah.
things that didn't make it into whatever North Korea thought it was making.
So you go into this movie thinking that it's a slice of life into North Korea, but it's actually the making of a documentary that North Korea wants you to see. Right? It's
Yes.
like a behind the scenes
Yes.
BTS documentary of a movie that where North Korea is playing a very heavy hand in the production of.
And it's so like I at first I was like, okay, that makes sense. Like I'd want to put my best foot forward, change the lines a little bit. Like she's just educating. It just gets crazier. Later,
Yeah.
they go to each of the parents' work,
Yeah.
and you realize they don't actually work there.
Mhm.
They set that up for them. They're actual real factories though, which is kind of cool.
Okay.
What was the
Yeah.
dad again? The dad was like some like factory inspector,
Factory engineer.
engineer. That's what it was.
But originally he was something else. They told him he was some other job.
yes.
Yeah.
And then the mom worked at like the soy milk factory.
Oh yeah.
You
the
remember
soy milk
that?
She was like
factory.
a grocery store
yeah.
attendant or
Attendant,
something.
Yes.
Right.
And this is when this is crazy because you can see again, the B-roll footage is all in the movie, so you can see the actual factory workers being really confused
Yeah.
and being directed in terms of like, okay, today we're gonna celebrate this oldest employee's like whatever anniversary, and we're gonna celebrate her.
Yeah.
And they're all like, okay,
Yeah.
and
then,
they're all still working, like they're
Yeah.
still like sewing like their pieces.
and then they give her flowers, and then you could hear her say, "Oh, do I say something now? Okay, I'll stand up and say
Yes.
something."
Oh man, it was so that stuff was so interesting. Or like the soy milk factory. It's like, okay, this employee who you've never met before is gonna come out, and we're gonna talk about her, and you're gonna start clapping and like celebrating.
Their clapping was so like unenergetic and
Yes.
awkward. Their clapping was awkward.
Yes,
Hmm.
yes,
Can I
yes.
interject a larger theme, or do you want to talk about?
Go.
Okay, so I had a thought, right? Because we on this podcast we talk a lot about like, North Korea's missile video, right? We had an episode on that, right?
Yeah.
Kim Jong Un, and the question is, what do they think? Do they want us to think that they're cool? Like through these scenes, right? Do they want us to think this or that? And what I realized in this movie is that they're not thinking that. What they're thinking is, I have to survive. And so the guy on top of me wants to see this. So I'm going to give him that. Right?
Yes.
I don't care about this North Korean minder. He's got a manager too.
Yeah.
And he's got to produce something that this manager or this manager's manager wants to see, right?
Yes.
And so I think this movie was very insightful, and it brings a lot of insight into that, is that there's this big system that they're part of, and they're all kind of just playing their role
Yeah.
in the system, right?
It's the blind leading the blind. That's how I kept feeling about it. Like
Interesting.
someone at the very top said, "Oh my gosh, no! This documentary needs to be propaganda, and
Yeah.
we need to like curate this at the maximum, make it look good. And so this director was brought in.
We need to
and then
control
director
it.
had his notes, and he's got to like curate. And essentially, he's not making a doc. He doesn't care that it's a documentary. He's just basically creating propaganda.
Yes.
And it's interesting that you bring that up. So Jay, I queued up this. Can you run this clip real quick? So let me just set this up real quick. So this is at the soy milk factory where the mom has been given a job for the sake of making it look like she works in this factory. And what's happening is the director lines up all the workers and he gives them these lines about like, we're going to celebrate Zinmi's mother. And then we're going to say all this stuff about like how great the country's doing and how awesome it is that we can work together for the future of our children.
Yeah.
And he's giving directorial notes to the workers right now. So go ahead and run this.
After that, say, Jinmi joined the Children's Union. Say, let's congratulate her. And congratulations. Try to say more. Let's do it. Don't forget to smile.
This factory worker looks so unconvinced.
If that was an actual working factory, those machines wouldn't be off. By the way, like,
yes.
I feel like even like as scripted as this is, it wouldn't surprise me if this entire factory was also quote unquote scripted, fake. Yeah.
Well, that must be we must produce more different kinds of milk for our country. Working every day, right? And so we'll work harder to produce more milk. Comrade, Jinmi and her mother grew a Kim Jong-ilia for the flower show. Their flower bloomed so beautifully. It was the most beautiful Kim Jong-ilia in the show. Did you see it? Yesterday on the birthday of Kim Jong-il, and these are other workers talking now. Let's congratulate her mother. And now they're
all staged, scripted.
Exactly, yeah. All right, you can go ahead and... Okay, so what I wanted to talk about in that was when the director... when I first watched this scene, I had this memory get triggered in me. And when the director was saying, be happy. Like, look happy, right?
Yeah,
we should look happy. Look happy. Smile. And then the factory workers do that like really lame, like fake smile.
Yeah.
It was like confused, if anything. She was just confused. And he was just like really trying to get them to look happy. It like reminded me so much of I think this is Korean, but I'm sure other cultures have, but I've experienced in Korean culture. Do you remember like just things happen? Mine is within church, Korean church. Mm-hmm. We would do some like weird stuff, like, I don't know. They would ask us to sing some song in Korean for Sunday school, and we didn't understand the lyrics. We couldn't even pronounce the words, but they were just saying like, this is amazing. Smile. You're doing something amazing right now. And we're like, what? What is this?
Yeah.
And the Korean director, without giving reason, would just say, do it. Do it. It's good. Do it. Just believe me. It brought me back to that moment of like, this feels so Korean. Just do it. Don't question. Just do it.
Yeah.
And
just
it's
play
good.
Along.
And you should feel it's good too, because I'm telling you.
Right. There's that level. But then it made me think of, we're in a system too.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So it does say, well, first you question like, well, these guys are clearly trying to play the game. Everyone's, like I said, right? Everyone's playing their role and doing what they're told because they have to. They have to survive. But then there's like, well, what about you? Right? Shakespeare said, all the world is a stage, right? Everyone plays their game, right? Everyone wants, in many ways, in conversations, says what that person, we think that person wants to hear, or maybe someone who's important to us wants us to say, right? Like, what really is genuine here? It does kind of make you question everything, right?
Honestly, and we'll get into my review of this, I thought this movie, from like a cinematic point of view, whatever, like, sure, it dragged in some spots, but I was thinking the entire time, like, through A-roll, different things. So during scenes like this, I'm like, what are these people thinking right now?
Yeah.
Like, you can see in their like body language doesn't lie.
Yes.
Some of them are like, what is happening right now? But at
Right.
the same time, they're like resisting that because they're
Mm-hmm.
like trying to be into it. They're trying to
Right, because some important guy just came in and
Exactly.
said, you have to do this.
Exactly. And to your point, Jay, like I do think, I don't know if these factories I think he made a thing about the factories before, but he wrote a note later on that he said he never saw, or the crew never saw anyone leaving or coming from the factories, leaving them to believe they're either not real or people lived there to make it
Yes.
like more
Right.
efficient, which is crazy in itself that they have to live at the factory.
But
Same for the
factories
schools.
But factories are dirty, though.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. They definitely curated the
Yeah,
places.
sure.
I have a commentary about the dirtiness too. Anyway, for me, like just watching these people's faces, like,
Yeah.
oh my God, I had so many questions. Like, those were the golden moments for me. Like, for example, the sewing machine, when the lady is very confused and she's like, do I say something?
Yeah.
And you hear it on her mic.
Yes.
And they caught it. She was so confused because she's like, what should I say?
Mm-hmm.
And she knew like this was fake. And
Yeah.
at the same time, the other women are just like working really hard. Like
Yeah.
it's like they're being interrupted during their normal job. And I felt this other story in my mind being like, these ladies are scared they're going to get punished for not doing their regular job, but they're being forced to be interrupted right now to do this other thing, you know, by this other hiring. So they're just going to do it. And oh my God, I just thought that was the underlying
It's like
things that were happening in my mind.
it's like a poker game, right?
Yes.
Like you see both the card moves, but then like you see the game of chess that they're playing, right? In their
Yes.
minds.
Yes.
That is the interesting part of it's a very unique documentary in that way.
Yes.
And the fact that back to the fact that it's a Russian director, that's how Russia used to be, and maybe kind of still is. I don't know anything about Russian culture, but Russia being a communist country in the past, or the USSR, had a lot of this, a lot of cronyism and things like that, saying what you think the other people want to hear. And so I'm sure for him as well, he's it kind of harkened back to a different era for Russians as well.
Well, I think it gave him an advantage to find those scenes.
Yes.
Like, I think again, I don't know his history as well, but he did a great job.
Oh,
Like the B-roll is the A-roll here. Because every time you see the slice of life,
Yeah.
and it's incredible. It's funny to me thinking even about how did he get that footage?
yeah.
He's being minded all the time. And he probably just said, you know, it'd be cool if we just get some like footage of the Korean people. And they were like, oh yeah, that would be good. And we're going
Yeah.
to insert it as B-roll. But to them, they're just like, oh, that's just B-roll. But to him, he got like this incredible, like,
Yeah.
you remember the bus scene? Did you see that one? Where the people are pushing the bus? 'Cause
Yeah,
they
what
had no
was that?
They had no
Yeah.
power.
Had no power. Ah.
So there's this crazy scene. It's like and what's awesome is he lets it run for
You
like
just let it-
3
yeah,
minutes.
Right. That's why it drags.
Yes.
Right.
And it's at 1:39, Jay, if you want to jump to 1 hour 39. So the people, right here.
Yeah.
There's all these people on this packed electric bus because there's like overhead power lines and they're walking alongside it, but they're actually pushing it. And there's people on the bus. And there's like this crowd of people pushing the bus, waiting to get on. And then I think what happens, they finally get it hooked up to a working line, overhead line. Because at one point, everyone just starts to jump onto the bus. But this is just like, you know what I mean? This is so crazy. Like, these are citizens who are just trying to go home.
This is
Yeah.
after they played it the way, so this is after like that big musical that they had.
I think so. They were
Right?
like leaving. Yeah, there's like a lady in a hanbok walking alongside the
Oh,
bus.
I see.
I think these are people leaving that event.
Yeah.
But look, this is at night, and if you notice, they're not allowed night shots because I'm pretty sure the power just wasn't on. And look at this. This is so crazy. They're all
Yeah.
pushing this bus. There's probably like 20, 30 people pushing this bus. And there's no sound because there's no sound. I think the filmmaker is like shooting from a building
Yes.
from
Yeah.
far away, zooming
Yeah.
in.
Oh, they have
there's,
music.
There's
in the
music.
background,
But yeah, it's just so interesting.
It's
and then
chilling.
it's such a great contrast of like what the North Korean people director is trying to like portray versus like this is the daily life of these people.
Mm-hmm.
And there's so many scenes like that throughout the film, like where you get this B-roll, like the train station. You guys remember the train station?
Yeah, I liked because it came in the beginning and I wasn't as bored at the beginning of the movie, but there was this one shot, I didn't take the timestamp of this guy looking at the camera, right? He was he's clearly surprised that there was a camera there, but from the subway, he was looking far away and like just wondering what that camera was. And that was like one of the truest shots of the movie, right?
Yeah.
Of this guy. He wasn't acting in any way. He was just like, what is this camera doing there?
Yeah.
And it just stays on him for like 10 seconds. I thought it was beautiful.
I'm going to be honest. I got emotional during a B-roll shot. And it was a similar one, but it was right before that. It's when they're going down to the train station and they're going down this escalator. Jay, you can pull it up. It was at 34 minutes. And similar to what you were saying, Dan, like it's so like these are not actors.
Yeah.
There are so many people crammed onto this escalator going up while the film crew is going down.
Yeah.
And you just see everyone's faces.
Yeah.
No one is smiling. Like if this was propaganda, everyone would be smiling and be like, "Hey, we're great." Everyone here looks very miserable and sad. It like made me really emotional to see that many people. I get it. Going to Chicago, New York, like in the subway, a lot of miserable looking people. But for some reason, when I just saw that, it really made me emotional to think about like they're suffering. Like people are suffering. Like
it raised so many questions.
Yes.
Really. Yeah.
It made me emotional. And then seeing these people kimchi squat. If you guys don't know what the kimchi squat is, just look it up. It's basically the Korean squat, which I cannot do. Can you guys do a kimchi squat?
I can do it.
Oh, of course you can, Jay. No man is surprised. These people are doing kimchi squat. Kimchi squat is like a rest position. To us, it's like taking a knee, right? It's like resting, which just tells me these people have been waiting forever for this train to leave or come because they're just like so tired from standing.
Yeah, this guy, right?
But yeah, here's the guy staring right down the barrel of the camera and the little boy, and he's just staring. He's so curious. He's just curious.
Yeah. He's like, what is going on?
He doesn't break eye contact with the camera. Anyway.
Yeah.
Graffiti on the windows. Did you see that?
Yeah, I did.
You know what? I did. And that's what, I had a commentary about the cleanliness too, but that I noticed it wasn't dirty because of like vandalism. It was like dirty because of age.
Yeah.
And then they go back to this shot and it's clearly lit, right? There's some sort of off-camera lighting on there.
Yep.
And it's clearly like staged. You could tell, right? And then Jinmi starts talking again and you're back to this script again.
Well, this is the best part is that the filmmakers are getting B-roll right now. So you see the other people outside the shot who are regular people just commuting on the train and they're not smiling. They're not like jovial. They're just, I want to get home. What is this thing?
Mm-hmm.
Like this is set up. They're not looking at anything. They're looking way too long to be looking at a map. Like that's set up. But like, it's so interesting when you just see like the setup shot versus not,
Yeah.
Anyway, I thought that was a really cool part of this film.
Very cool.
And just seeing real slice of life versus the propaganda slice of life.
Yeah. Yeah. It's beautiful. It's beautifully shot. Beautifully shot.
So with that, let's go into our reviews. Hopefully I've convinced Jay to be more open about this film. Maybe
Wait,
you
I have
too,
a
Dan.
before I just have one question.
Go for it.
Do you think the director will be invited back? Meaning, do you think they're mad at him for putting this out instead of the edited version that they thought?
I have a question for your question. Would you want to go back after a year there filming?
Maybe.
Knowing that you kind of changed the story of what they wanted,
No, I don't.
He definitely did not put the story of what they wanted out there.
No, he didn't.
And maybe, I don't know the agreement, maybe he was filming something for them and they used that footage to create their own thing.
For their own thing.
It feels like it, right?
Yeah, it might be that. And that he was allowed to do it. I don't even know if he was allowed to take it and like make his own, who knows?
It reminded me, sorry.
No,
one
it's
more
all
thing.
right.
It reminded me of, remember we did that episode about that North Korea YouTube channel?
Yes.
And
the fake influencer.
Fake North Korea YouTube influencer. This is kind of like the behind the scenes of that. Where you're just questioning. I just question like, were those really her parents too? Right? Like, what is real here?
Yes.
It's very hard to tell. Yeah.
Okay. There's one more thing I want to talk about.
Right,
okay. So this was for me, really made this movie a little bit better than what I thought it was, watching it, but the ending. I thought I almost I came very close to crying.
Yes.
Do you guys know what I'm talking about? So in the last scene, they're interviewing Zinmi, and they ask her. It's a great. Oh my god! It was really beautiful in that it was a balance between her saying a line and her being actually real, because they're kind of giving her notes.
Yes.
Do you remember this? And then she just starts crying.
Yeah.
And she starts
'Cause
crying.
she's a kid.
And honestly, she's a kid. We don't know why she's crying. Honestly,
we
I
don't
think
know.
she's exhausted for one.
Yeah.
Because they've been like dragging her around doing all these things, but she says it. She says she feels responsible for your mistakes.
As more of an adult.
Yeah. So okay, let me give some context here. Yeah, can you rewind it like 30 seconds and then? So they just went through this Shining Star Day, which is like the birthday of Kim Jong Il. You can run Jay, and then I'll let you run. I'll tell you when to put the sound on. So there's this final interview, and they say, Zinmi, what do you expect life since joining the Children's Union? Now go ahead and play the sound.
I'll read this part. When we join the Children's Union, we enter adulthood. She pauses. Now you feel responsible for your mistakes. Quivering lips. And you wonder what else you should do for the respected leader.
Oh man, I'm crying right now. It's hard to watch.
She's crying. Yeah. So powerful. She's crying.
Okay.
Because
we'll let it run. We can mute it for a second. Go ahead, Dan.
Because you don't know why she's crying, right? Like, and you don't know if this is real. Like, maybe,
I think this is real. So here's my thing.
Okay.
I think this is real, and I think she feels so much pressure from messing up, because they catch her messing up multiple times throughout the whole film. Like during the dance thing that she was forced to do and she couldn't do. She starts crying during that scene. You remember that?
Yeah.
And they've just, to me, what's so sad about this is like they've just like pummeled her with this shame, which is very Asian, of like, you let down the country when you make mistakes. And she's just reflecting right now about like, I made mistakes and now I disrespected the great leader, which is like, to me, two layers of things. Like one, that she's now bought into this crazy doctrine of like the great leader is all things in the world. And two, she feels like responsible now as a she's a child.
Well, that's joining the Children's Union,
yes.
right? It's like that's
the responsibility.
organization.
Yeah. And she's literally crying that. So, and then the director's saying, calm her down, tell her everything will be all right.
Yeah.
We need to end on a positive note.
Yeah. And he's telling someone else to do that.
Yes.
Like, why don't you do it yourself?
And he keeps saying, stop crying, don't cry. And then this is, oh man, this really got me.
Yeah.
They basically direct her to say, try to think of something good. All right, go ahead and play it.
Try to think of something good. What?
Something good. She pauses.
I don't know what.
That's, think of something good or funny that happened to you in the past. So like now they just like feed her this line to say, or she comes up with it herself and she just says something like pre-programmed.
Get her to say something cheerful. Do you know a cheerful poem?
I just hold on, I want to pause it for a second. Like, so she just recites this like really fake cheerful like thing that
Kim Il
she's been,
Sung poem.
yeah, that she's like memorized, and that's how the movie ends.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert again. Sorry, but like, oh my god, that moment was so powerful to me because she literally says like, "What?" Like she can't think of something good to say.
Yeah. And
That was-
whatever they made, all of that stuff was cut out. except for that
Exactly. I thought this is beautiful by Vitaly. Like this is so heart wrenching to me.
I mean, we don't even know where in the timeline this falls, right? This could be before the show. This could be at the end.
No, I think
right?
this is after, because they're talking about after she's been inaugurated into the Children's Union already. I think this is at the end of it.
But it is also the emotional end of this movie, right? Like, what do you think? What are you really thinking now that you're a part of this party and this and that? And you see her crying, and then you see her do this exteriorly, this fake poem.
Yeah. Well, that was the beauty of it. Like,
Yeah.
it was both right there. And all in that scene, the genuineness of like, she's just exhausted. She feels this weight and she cries and she can't say something good. She literally
She can't
cannot say something good.
and yeah, she just tells them what they want to hear, which is exactly what's going on this whole movie.
Yes.
It's crazy.
And she's 6 years, 7, whatever she is, 7, 8 years old.
Yeah.
And all right. We need to get into our reviews of this.
Yeah.
So we'll start with Jay because I'm really curious. Jay, he told me his review beforehand, but I'm curious if it's changed or if it's the same. It's okay if it's the same, Jay. You do you.
It's
Go
the
ahead.
same. It's
Deliver
the same.
it.
I'm gonna say it's teetering between wavering and hostile for me.
And again, we use our Songbun rating system of core, wavering, and hostile. Core obviously being the best. So you're between a wavering and hostile. Okay?
Yeah, it teeters back and forth for me.
Okay.
It's just so suspicious. This documentary is just so suspicious to me. Everything, not even just like the scripted portions, I get that, but even like there was a scene where they were in the apartment and they had 2 clocks on the wall and they were both wrong. They didn't match up with one another. So
That's what bothered you.
it bothered that really bothered me.
But that's how disorienting this movie is.
The vinyl wood flooring on the ground was rolled up onto the walls.
Yeah.
Is this apartment even real?
Yeah.
Right? Like everything about it just screamed faked. Like it was so suspicious. Even like even the entire crowds of people. Like how far can they get into this? Right? Because they're doing big dance and music recitals at these big public squares.
Yeah.
And they can get 500 people to do that. What's not to say they can't get an entire city to
they
be
definitely
suspicious
can.
like
They
that too. It's everything about it just screams like fake and weird, and it gave me so many questions, and then that upset me because I couldn't understand it.
Yeah.
So that led me to being hostile from time to
Okay.
time.
You were frustrated.
I'm
Okay.
very frustrated.
Dan?
All right. I wrote mine out, and it won't be nearly as long as my Purgasari. I love the brief moments of truth amidst all the acting and politicking. This movie was beautifully shot and a rare look into everyday life in North Korea. It did drag a little, well, maybe a lot. I give it a wavering.
A wavering. Okay. I thought you would be higher than that. Thank you for that opinion. We're all on different sides of the scale here.
Yeah,
Dan's in the middle. Jay's more on the bottom. I am core.
Wow.
I think, here's my review. I'm core. Director Vitaly Mansky succeeds in showing 2 stories in one film. What the government, North Korean government wants you to see, and what the real story is behind that story. And I love that dynamic he creates in this film. Yes, there are a lot of, even during the drawn out long scenes, I'm still thinking like, is this because this is all he could shoot? As a filmmaker, I guess that I come from that perspective. Like, is this all he was allowed to shoot this day? Like, is he struggling for footage? Was he told like you need to show this scene in some respect, or you know what I mean? All the things that frustrate you, Jay, are like interesting and compelling to me because it creates so many more questions about what is happening here, and that, if anything, captures North Korea better than any. Like that is North Korea. What is real? Like that is the question all the time happening in North Korea, at least from the outside in. So I really appreciate that. And and I think he succeeds in just telling this really raw story of people.
Yeah.
Jay had a scene that he just really doesn't like. And because I wanted Jay to just appreciate the movie, I cut that scene soundbite in. Jay, tell us about the scene that you really didn't like.
It's a young girl
Yeah.
announcing, I think the musical. She's
Yeah.
in front of the curtain. The curtain doesn't show like what's about. She's
like the MC.
She's the MC. She's introducing.
This is not Zinmi, but it's like one of her
going on.
peers, maybe a little older.
Yeah.
All right, so this is a scene Jay doesn't like. It's a young girl. She salutes on the stage. I'm not even going to translate. I just want you to hear her tone.
Her face is full of fake conviction. That's what's creepy about her.
This girl is like 10 years old, y'all. I just want you to know, like, that's why it's so creepy to Jay.
This really got me hostile for sure.
Why are you hostile?
I was so angry at why she's speaking like that.
Because Kim Il Sung.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we're not like, Jay clearly is not mad at this girl for the way she looks or whatever, or even this girl for how she's acting. It's like the system that makes her do this, right?
I don't know. Jay seems like he's mad at the girl.
This
Jay, you mad
is,
at
to
this
me,
girl?
this is like the try hard. Like you have the main character that's like honest, but still going with like the program. This one is fully committed to the program. She is like the class leader of the children's union.
You know, she's like the young, tiny version of the North Korean news announcer lady.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Play our clip of her. She's the miniature version of this.
경의하는 최고령도 자동직께서는
Like that's this little girl. She's preparing to take over that spot right now, which is I'm curious as why that's the worst part of the movie for you, but but you know, I get it. I have a thing of creepy little kids singing and dancing in unison, so I feel that. But
I hated this part.
Wow. Yeah, it is a little creepy for sure.
well, if you're listening, check this out.
Yeah.
It's called Under the Sun. Again, you can find it on Tubi. We'll put a link to it in the show notes. And let us know your thoughts. After you watch it, please send us your review of Under the Sun. You can email us at dmz@crossingbordersnk.org. We'd love to hear what you think, especially Jay. Hey, we all know Koreans love spam, just not in the form of emails. Crossing Borders loves to send awesome, non-spammy emails that give you all the information you want on what's happening to North Korean refugees. If you want it, go to crossingbordersnk.org and give us that email. Seriously, it's better than real spam.